Honorable Mustapha Ussif, you're back to Parliament for the second time. You came in 2013 and you lost the seat in 2016 or 2017, and you're back in 2021. On behalf of the committee, I congratulate you on your nomination to the position of Minister for Sports. Before this, you were the National Service Coordinator, the National Coordinator. Right. Now, is there anything else you wish us to know? We don't want the myself part, just anything that relates to your qualification to this position.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, like you rightly said, I was a member of the CIF Parliament. I started my primary education at Kofodia Presbyterian Primary School and also continued my junior secondary education at Kofodia Junior Secondary School. I then proceeded to Salaga Secondary School, the then Northern Region, and completed in 1996. In 1998, I had admission to Bagabaga Teacher Training College in the Northern Region, and I graduated with Teacher Certificate A in 2001. I was posted to Watania JSS in the Northern Region, and I taught mathematics and craft design, science and technology, popularly known as CDT. Mr. Chairman, I had the opportunity in 2004 to further my education in the diaspora. I had my bachelor's degree in International Business Management, Anglo Risking University, and also my master's degree, MBA Finance, in the University of Gloucestershire. I came back to Ghana, like you said, and contested a seat on the MPP ticket in 2012 and won the seat for the first time for MPP party. Mr. Chairman, currently I'm a member of this House, the 8th Parliament, and in the 6th Parliament I serve on the Mines and Energy Committee, and I know my good friend here, Honorable Borteyman, knows how active I was on that committee. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable Borteyman. Are you going to ask questions on a committee on energy?
I'm testing the ground. Yes, Honorable Mustapha Ussif, congratulations for this nomination.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
They say the ministry is a very hot place, but others survived, and we know you survived. My first question will be on All Africa Games. Ghana has won the right to host the All Africa Games in 2023. It's a major event, very prestigious in Africa. It's like our Olympic Games. I'm sure you have been briefed by now as to our preparations towards the Games. The LOC, funding, venues. Can you tell this committee what you've been told and how you also plan to let this event happen?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, the country had the opportunity in 2018 to host the African Games come 2023. But His Excellency the President has since inaugurated the local organizing committee. And the local organizing committee, as part of my preparation towards this August House, I've met them for briefings. They have started setting up subcommittees to look at how human capital development, because the idea is that we don't just want to host the African Cup of Nations without winning medals. So we have, apart from that, we are also setting up a subcommittee to look at the infrastructure development. We are going to put up, given the opportunity, an Olympic village. And the Olympic village will come with facilities which, after the games, will be served as a university for sports development. So, Mr. Chairman, yes, we are very focused. Government is committed to host the best ever African Games in the country.
What did you say, University for Sports Development? Is that the plan of the ministry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's the plan of the ministry per the briefing I've gotten. And even when His Excellency the President was inaugurating the local organizing committee, the President made an emphatic statement that after the games, we will use the facility to establish a university for sports development. That will be the second university in the whole of Africa. And in Africa...
We had one at Winneba. What happened to it? Is that the same thing, the one at Winneba?
The one at Winneba, this is going to be an entirely new facility that we are going to put up for the games. But after the games, we have to utilize the facilities. And the government policy is that we will turn the facility into a university for sports development. And the idea is that the whole of West Africa, we have no such university. What we have currently is a college, university college, a college in Winneba. But we want to use this opportunity that we have gotten as a country to set up a university, which will be the second in the whole of Africa. That's the policy direction of government per the briefing I got.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Member for...
yes, hold on. So, Honorable Member, you said we have the sports college in Winneba, that's correct. So, you are going to have this university in Winneba?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I didn't say we are going to have it in Winneba. I said we already have an existing sports college at Winneba, which government currently is in the process of reviving that college as well to meet international standard and bring in facilities, modern facilities to meet the intended objective of setting up that college. So the honorable member should be assured that government is in the process. Feasibility studies have already been carried out to ensure that we revive that college as well.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Leader is fighting for his constituency, Winneba. Yes, one of the major challenges that the sports sector faces, especially when it comes to the public side, is funding. Thankfully, a few facilities have been put together because of the National Youth Authority Act, which enabled some funding to be channeled to that authority and which the ministry has been grateful for. Now, the Sports Act 2016 spoke about sports fund, that you should make regulations towards creating a sports fund. Have you been briefed as to how far this process has gone?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, I've been briefed. The briefing I got from the National Sports Authority is that currently there is a process ongoing to establish a sports development fund. So we are working on it. But also, most importantly, is the regulation for the Act 934, because the processes also have started to give opportunity to the authority to be able to get more funding, commercialize sports for their revenue generation. So yes, to answer the question, there is plans are far advanced per the briefings I've got, because there is a cabinet memo that has been sent on the Sports Development Fund.
Thank you. The last one. Have you been briefed about sports academies and whether there are efforts to make regulations towards regulating that sector? The challenge we seem to have is that people just gather youth together, put them under certain conditions, and then term it an academy. But academy, properly so-called, should have facilities like just an educational center, except that they have to concentrate on the sport that they want to do. Right to Dream Academy in Ghana has been transferring players and making millions out of it. Now, as I asked, do you have enough briefing on academies and the way forward as far as regulations and other things are concerned?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, I've gotten briefing on sports academy or sports colleges, and I know there is work ongoing on bringing a bill to this House, and the bill is the sports bill, the sports colleges bill, academy bill, or sports colleges bill. And currently, there's a committee that my predecessor set up, and they've done extensive work on the sports bill. But the regulations, like I said, at 934, also is currently ongoing. Once the regulations are done, and this House approve the regulations, it will also give opportunity, because what we face as a country is that there's no regulations, there is no any law on academy. And private sector want to come in to support, like the honorable member said, Right to Dream Academy came to Ghana in 1999. In 1999, they've been training the youth of this country, not only in football, but other sports disciplines, and also generational leaders. They've given scholarship to the youth, some of the youth of this country, to study in Ivy League schools in the USA. And it's a model that, if we showcase, we'll get other private sector participation, which will be very important to this country and to be beneficial to this country. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
I go first.
Thank you. Congratulations, honorable nominee. Honorable nominee.
Thank you so much.
Yes. There have been some accusations in the public domain which have been labeled against the Ministry of Youth and Sports in times past for misapplying funds meant for the operations of the National Youth Authority, established under the National Youth Authority Act at 939 for the construction of sports-related infrastructure like stadia. And yet, when you go through the functions of Act 939, Section 18, it's very clear that the funds of the National Youth Authority shall be applied in furtherance of the functions stated under Section 3 of the same Act. If given the nod, can you give this committee the assurance that you would launch a probe into this matter with a view to ensuring that the funds of the National Youth Authority are applied for the furtherance of the functions of the authority?
Mr. Chair, with respect, the law is clear on the consequences of misapplication. And he is saying that perception of misapplication of funds, public funds. With respect, I was thinking that my learned colleague would rephrase that aspect of his question, because if there's perception and the person has not been convicted, and you say perception of misapplication, there's a law on that. And the nominee would have a very difficult situation having to answer question of perception when the consequence of it is conviction.
That's okay. I listened to the question. He said there were accusations and perception in the public. Will he investigate? Was that not what your question was?
You should make it clearer.
Construction of stadia with funds meant for the operations of the
Honorable, the answer, the question is, will you investigate any such allegations if you are given the nod?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have no knowledge of the allegation, but what I know is that there is youth resource centers being built. They are not just stadium like the honorable member said. The youth resource centers comes with facilitating, apart from the FIFA standard pitch, it comes also with entrepreneur center, business entrepreneur centers to train the youth. It comes with an ICT hub where youth can go and be trained. It also comes with an 8-lane track that also can use to promote the youth development in terms of athletics. So there are 10 youth resource centers being built currently, and the first phase is complete. It's not just an ordinary stadium, as my honorable member mentioned. It's a youth resource center to build the capacity of the youth of this country. So it's forced directly under the Act and the functions of the authority. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Now, Honorable Nominee, even though you have not worked at the ministry before, but I know you have been briefed, I'd like to find out from you whether you know of the case of Mr. I.K. Menu. He was Deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority, but in 2017 he was asked to step aside for some investigations to be conducted. Now, after 4 years, Mr. I.K. Menu is at home but continues to draw salary from the taxpayer. If you have been briefed about Mr. I.K. Menu, what would you do to ensure that his matter is brought to a definitive conclusion?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't have knowledge, I've not heard it, but given the opportunity by this August House, I will investigate the matter and report back if necessary. Thank you.
Right, my last question. Honorable Nominee, your constituency is a neighboring constituency to mine, and you are aware of the existence of the Sandema Youth Training Institute, which operates directly under the National Youth Authority. Now, there are 9 other such institutions dotted across the country, but these skills training institutes appear to have been completely abandoned, and I've used the Sandema Skills Training Centers. Some of your constituents are students of that institute. The school is abandoned. There are no workshops. There are no ICT centers. They don't even have a vehicle. I have personally supported that institute to fix their vehicle before, but right now it is completely broken down. What would you do to bring these schools back on their feet to ensure that the object of the Youth Authority, National Youth Authority Act 2016, which is also about ensuring that the youth have access to skills training, is realized?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I know work have started on the retooling of these youth leadership training centers. And I know maybe it's a gradual process. For example, the one in Nalelgu, there's one in Nalelgu, and I'm aware There is a renovation going on, and it's functioning very, very well. And also the one in Eastern Region also is working so well. So given the opportunity, I'll continue what my predecessors have started by retooling most of these youth resource centers. Because the idea is that there's a skill deficiency in our youth, and there was an analysis done on skill gap analysis in our youth by Corvette, and identified that most of our youth lack basic skills. You agree with me that even at the construction sector, we get foreigners coming to do some skill job that our youth should have been doing. And plans are far advanced because there's a project currently going to be rolled out, the Job and Skill Project, the Ghana Job and Skill Project. So I will collaborate with the implementing agency, which is the Ministry of Education, the Ministry, and also Corvette and National Board for Small Scale Industry, to see how best we can get this training institute function as we establish them for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Reverend, today I'm going to, okay, you're the only one here, so, yes.
I'm grateful, Honorable Chair. Congratulations. I must congratulate you, Honorable Minister-designate.
Thank you so much.
In 2019, there were 10 multipurpose youth centers that were initiated by your predecessor, Honorable Isaac Esiama. Can you tell this committee the state of these 10 multipurpose youth centers? And can you assure the committee that when given the nod, you will be committed to the successful completion of each of these facilities?
Honourable Member, I think he just spoke to that in response to a question asked by the Honourable.
No, thank you, Honourable Chair. But I have a few other concerns, with your indulgence, which I'll put across. During your tenure as the National Service boss, what were some of the challenges you inherited, and how did you overcome them? That would be your topmost or milestonic successes that you're proud of during your tenure as a...
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when I had the opportunity to serve the good people of this country as the Executive Director of Ghana National Scheme, the huge challenge I was confronted with is to the issue of our national service personnel after finishing national service, hopeless, and that's jobs. So national service, under my leadership, we introduced various initiatives with approval from the board. And one of such initiatives is the entrepreneurship concept. Because we realized that 4 years analysis that we did, more than 500,000 national service personnel have passed through our hands. And there is a research from University of Ghana, ISA, that says only 10% of these our graduates are able to get a job 1 year after national service. So it was a challenge for me, even though my mandate is to deploy national service personnel, but I was concerned as an executive director. So we introduced an entrepreneur track where we collaborated with institutions like National Board for Small Scale Industry. And they gave training to more than 2,000 as a pilot, 2,000 national service graduates. And also collaborated with Maslow. And Maslow supported some of them as seed capital to start their own business, as most of them into poultry business. And as you are aware, national service, we have various farms, and we have a poultry farm. So normally we give opportunity to national service personnel to go through the value chain training. And some of them get opportunity to set up businesses out of the value chain. Some of them not necessarily even doing production of poultry, but even feed. They can take it as a business. Processing of the poultry can also serve as a business. So we give them the 1 year period opportunity to learn throughout the value chain of how to receive the day-old chicks, how to even do the production. So to answer the honorable member question, these are some of the challenges, but we have started addressing some of the challenges. Thank you so much.
You're done. Yeah, Honorable Nilante. Okay. Yes, Honorable.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honorable nominee, in April 2016, Ghana was ranked 38th in the world on the FIFA rankings. However, in the latest FIFA ranking issued on February 18, 2021, Ghana is ranked 52nd in the world when it comes to sports. What would you do to improve football? Yes, yeah. What would you do to improve Ghana's FIFA ranking?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our performance in international tournaments when it comes to football is something that we have to look at as a country. We need, because mostly what I've observed is that the preparation towards tournament is done in the year of the tournament. So, given the opportunity by this August House, I will engage the key stakeholders, the federations, like GFA, the National Sports Authority, to see how we can have a plan. Because in 2000, when Germany went for the European Cup of Nations and they performed badly, Germany, they came around a round table to see how they can improve their football. So the decision and the recommendation was to set up technical centers in their province, the county, and to harness talent. And in 2014, 14 years after this initiative, Germany won the World Cup. So as a country, we have to come together and see how we can have a comprehensive short-term, medium-term plan for our national teams so that we can improve on the rating. Once we are winning trophies, it will help us to improve the rating. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The second question has to do with the astroturfs that were built during the tenure of the former minister. Now, many have said that that project was not consultative enough. In other words, the communities were not involved in the planning of that project. In fact, when you come to Medina constituency, it got to a time when the youth were up in arms against the project. Now, a lot of the youth and the community are advocating that those astroturfs should be remodeled so that we can have it as a standard stadium, so that it can also promote other comers. You can host Premier Leagues there and the community can benefit. Would you consider a proposal to remodel the AstroTurf in Medina constituency especially to meet up at a standard stadium?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the facility the honorable member is talking about wasn't done by the Ministry of Youth and Sports. But given the opportunity, it was done by Ministry of Zongo Development. But given the opportunity, yes, I'll look into it to see how we can get to redesign most of our AstroTurfs to meet international standard if what the honorable member is saying is true. Because I have not had the opportunity of seeing the facility. But given the opportunity by this August House, I will look into it. Thank you so much.
As a quick follow-up, I would encourage that if you get a nod and you have to look into it, since it was raised here first, you'll make sure you give priority to Medina. And then let me quickly ask the very last question. What would you do to improve funding for disability sports and women's sports in Ghana?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, given the opportunity, all sporting activities are going to be given attention as a minister, especially when it comes to para sports. And I've already even engaged the para federation to see their plans. So I will engage with them to see how we can improve, because the problem we face as a country is the facilities available for our brothers who are disabled. So we have to improve on the facilities so that they will be able to get opportunity to train, because they are winning medals for us when they go for Olympic Games and Commonwealth Games. So it's something that, given the opportunity by this August House, together with honorable members, we'll see how best we can improve them. Thank you so much.
Honorable nominee said all sports will be improved. I have here before me a petition sent by Ghana Wheelchair Basketball Federation. They say that they have lost their membership of the federation because at the time they were due to register, the ministry did not support them. Are you assured that you make sure that the Wheelchair Basketball Federation will be supported to rejoin the International Federation by paying their all their dues and commitments?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, given the opportunity, I will follow up with the Para Federation. They have their federation that I will follow up to see how we can improve on that, and also their subscription. We know that they have international partners, and the law makes it clear that they pass through the National Sports Authority. So I will engage the National Sports Authority to see how all the federations will be very active so that they will have the opportunity to represent our country in international tournaments.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you very much. Minister, what is your take on sports betting?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as a Muslim, my religion don't support sports betting. But as a country that we live in, the country that we live in, there's law that permits sports betting. So, given the opportunity, I will engage the regulator here, that's the Gaming Commission, to see how we improve on it. But also, more importantly, how the underage, because the law also prohibits those under 18 to bet. But we have right now the way the betting goes on, you can just download an app and you bet. So parents, the public education, and parents should be very mindful about what their children do when it comes to betting.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask the nominee his views on sponsorship in sports. I took a look at a study that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange did. It's the 17th largest stock exchange in the world. It trades over $30 billion monthly. They looked into companies that sponsor sports and compared their revenues to those who do not sponsor sports. I'm sure you've heard of Ashanti Goldfields. Bekwa used to have Neoplan Stars, Kotoko. You go to South Africa, if Orlando Pirates is playing, you have the appetite to watch because you see that the team is well catered for, their kits and everything. FMB, you find Absa Bank sponsoring. Atramani used to sponsor table tennis in Ghana. We produce Francophonie through sponsorship in tennis. A lot of companies, Milo, we used to have the Milo Sports Championship. School sports was sponsored by companies. All these things have died, and they've died with our sports because we've never put in place a very good strategy to get companies attracted to sponsoring our sporting disciplines. GMPC will only take on the national team, which I have a problem with. Sponsorship is only way to revive our sports. What will be your strategy to attract some of the big companies into the area of sports sponsoring? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my strategy will be to engage the Ministry of Education to revive the inter-school sports festivals and also get the media to support, to promote it. What we can do, given the opportunity, is to get the media to put in a bid to showcase the sports, especially from the district level up to the regional level and the national level. So the media can come in just like the brilliant maths and science quiz. It wasn't functioning well until the media started showcasing it, and those students are now getting involved to even support their schools. So it's an area that we look at, because I remember when I was in secondary school, in Salaga Secondary School, and there's sports, who is Milo, Nestle Ghana was supporting. So it's an area that, and the sponsorship, the company also want to be seen to be sponsoring the activities. So that's why I said the strategy will be getting media houses to put in bid to showcase some of these activities, sports festivals that we'll be doing in our secondary school. But I'll do so in collaboration with Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education to revive and harness talent from secondary school. What I want to add, as a policy, as a country, we can even say we'll select our national talent from the secondary schools, because we have opportunity now, free SHS, where everybody has to go to school. Because the tendency is that most sportsmen and women at the junior age, once they identify their talent, they don't want to go to school. And if they are not able to get their career, they become burden to society. So if, as a country, we put in a policy that our selection based on that, even the teams in this country, the Premier League, the first divisions, will go to such festivals to identify talent for their teams. So to answer the honorable member, that is what we'll do as a strategy, given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, I want you to look at companies and sponsorship. Lastly, growing up, around 3 o'clock, Sundays, you would want to hear voices like Joe Latte, Kwabena Japan, Kwabena Yeboah, Joe Agri, Neil Ante Van der Poy, commenting on football matches. We picked up very good vocabulary from them. Lately, you listen to the question, Obi. Lately, you see that a lot of people want to go into that space, but they don't have that requisite training. And I think the ministry can come in a way to build the capacity of people into sports journalism and in that regard. What would you promise those who are very interested in that space when you are given the opportunity?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know they have an association called SWAG. So, given the opportunity, I will engage SWAG to see how we can get a training manual to develop the like of Neil and Van der Poy and the names you mentioned. So, to give them the opportunity to be able to have that capacity. So that people who want to go and even listen to their commentary, because everybody know Oluha by Kwabena Yeboah. If you mention it, every child in the Ghana know, just because of his tone and voice. So, luckily for me, he's the president of the association. So, given the opportunity, I will engage him to see how we can engage our young ones to have training. We have promising ones in most of the media houses. There are promising ones, Mr. Gary Asmith and Sadiq and the rest. Most of them are doing so well as well. So we encourage them to have training. Abate and Co. They are all very good up and coming media journalists. So given the opportunity by this August House, we will give them the necessary training. Thank you so much.
Yes, the commentator Neil Ante Van der Poy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I normally don't do this, but the Chairman permits me today to say I'm happy for my young brother, and I hope that he will be successful in this ministry. I wish him all the best, and he can count on some of us support when he's approved. Let me start with sports infrastructure. A lot of noise have been made about sports infrastructure and their maintenance. We built Isipon recently. If you go to Isipon, you will not be happy. We built Alumama, Tamale. If you go there, you will not be happy. We started work at Accra Sports Stadium. It's still at the tip. What are you going to do to ensure that we give the maintenance culture of our sports facilities the needed attention? Or will you also ascribe to the policy of getting proper estate managers to manage these facilities on behalf of the National Sports Authority?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to answer the first aspect, what I will do to improve the maintenance culture. The maintenance of our facilities, not only the sports facilities, is a problem. And I remember I had opportunity working with G4S Integrated Services in the UK. They are facility managers. They manage Leicester Hospital, and I was a supervisor of that company. What they have there, the experiences I had, they had maintenance manual for all the facilities that they manage. G4S was managing Leicester Hospital in Stevenage. They were managing Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Welling Garden City and other hospital facilities. And they have a maintenance manual for all their facilities. So given the opportunity, I will liaise with the National Sports Authority to ensure that every sports facility that we have in this country have a maintenance manual, so that the culture, on daily basis, you know the people responsible, the individual responsible for making sure maintenance are done, know what to do. And also, even there's also inspectors. Apart from the maintenance, people have to inspect to ensure that what is in the manual is complied with. So the ministry will liaise with the National Sports Authority to get an inspectorate directorate for our sports facilities, where they will frequently be monitoring to ensure that it's done. The other aspect of privatizing or giving the facility to management companies to manage for us is an issue that I will engage the stakeholders, GFA, GALCA, National Sports Authority, to see the way forward, because the facility have to be maintained. Because if the facilities are deteriorated, they cannot be utilized, and it will go against the teams. And it will go against the team. They have to meet standards so that they can compete. We can also get even harness talent from our local league for our national team to be able to play. So that's what I'll do. And I'll engage you, my senior, because I know you have a lot of experience. You are one of the people who will also be advising us to do. Thank you so much.
Honorable nominee, my second question has to do with a very sensitive issue. Lack of funding for sporting activities in the country has been perennial. But the most awful part is the fact that everybody seems to think that football deserves the most attention. So the budget of the Ministry of Youth and Sports is always consumed by football, and even if I don't say football, only the senior national team. What are you going to do to make sure you give equal attention to all the sporting disciplines, so that it doesn't seem like we are killing some other sporting disciplines in favor of football?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I would rather say we'll give equitable attention or equitable distribution of resources. Because if you look at the country, yes, I will be a minister for all sports discipline in the country, and will promote and ensure that their welfare, their facilities, how they are training, we will ensure that is done. But we also have to also understand the strength of our country. Look at a country like Jamaica. Worldwide, globally, everybody knows that Jamaica is a sports nation, is an athletic nation. But Jamaica don't win medals on long distance. They focus on where they have their strength, the short distance, and they are winning globally. And you look at our sister country, Kenya. Kenya is focusing on long distance and they don't win short distance. Even in Ghana, look, we have to look at our geographical locations. Because if you take, for instance, the Upper East, they are known to be boxers. And if you look at the history of those who have prominent boxers in the country, they are known. So things like that is what we will do to ensure that every sporting discipline is given the needed attention. Then, in terms of funding, earlier in my earlier answer, I said government is in the process because the law that's under your leadership was passed at 934 in the regulation bid. The regulation is currently they've started working on it. My predecessor have already started on it. It's going to give way to improve our funding structure so that we don't rely solely on our budget. So the National Sports Development Fund, I know a technical committee was set up by my predecessor, and I also know that there's a cabinet memo that has gone to cabinet. Given the opportunity, I'll follow it through to see the cabinet decision so that we get a national sports fund to develop our sports. Sports is the only event that brings this country together. When we had challenges in the road sector as a country, we set up a road fund. We had challenges in the educational sector, we set up debt fund. We had challenges in the infrastructure, we set up the infrastructure fund. Sports, that brings this country together. The only time you see everybody wearing the national, the flag is when it comes to our national team representing us globally in the tournament. Yet we don't have fund to develop talent, the human capital. So given the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, I'll follow it vigorously to see to it that we get a sports fund.
Honorable Nilante, Chairman, with your indulgence. Now you are talking about funds, honorable nominee, and you've referred to road fund, debt fund. All of them are taxes and levies on VAT. Are you suggesting that you establish a sports fund? How do you intend to get revenue? Are you thinking of a levy or taxes or sports betting?
Thank you so much. Rightly so. If you look at neighboring countries like Kenya and Kenya, for instance, their tax component on betting is about 35%. And the whole of Africa, Ghana is the lowest, the tax where we tax just 10% on the betting. So it's something that I will engage the Ministry of Finance to see as one of the revenue stream.
You engage cabinet, you engage as Minister of Finance. This will be a major decision. However, you are encouraged to do that. But just to Honorable Nilante, I train at Accra Sports Stadium, football. I train at Tamale Aliu Mahama. If you go to Accra Sports Stadium now, even for warm-up, the tracks are all down. If you go to Tamale, sometimes we have to find our own money to water the grass. There's accumulated electricity bills, accumulated water bills, never paid, never to be paid. What leadership will you provide to the ministry if confirmed? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. In an earlier answer, I said we'll get a manual, a maintenance manual, and also improve on the revenue generation, IGF generation of the National Sports Authority, so that we'll be able to maintain our sports facilities very well. So, like the law at 934 that we passed as a House in 2016, the regulations, when the regulation comes to fruition, and I know it's currently at the draft stage, when given the opportunity by this House, We'll get the regulation here so that together we'll make sure that we put in commercialization of our sports so that we'll have funds to maintain the facilities that we are investing our money in. It's not proper to put in a lot of money, put up these facilities and get it deteriorated just because we can't maintain them. So, Mr. Chairman.
Can I get more clarity? What do you mean by commercialization? Football is already commercial. If you play and you do well, you become an icon, you become the toast of, I don't know which team chairman supports, whether it's a Blue Chelsea or a Man U.
I support Kotoko, no other.
Fabo.
Yes.
So, and then, so when you say commercial, what do you mean? You commercialize sports. Earlier in an answer to Honorable Patrick Buama, the lesser sports, and Neil and Tetu have touched on it. Everybody in Ghana is about football. Volleyball is gone. Boxing probably gone. No enthusiasm. So, will you build and develop new leaders in these areas? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, what I meant by getting commercialization is the National Sports Authority is the authority mandated by Act 934 to manage and maintain these facilities. Yet, the users of the facilities don't pay realistic fees for the usage. So that's why I said we will engage the stakeholders to ensure that we come on a common ground on how to generate revenue for the National Sports Authority in order to be able to maintain the facilities that we have invested our taxpayers' money in. In answering the question about how to harness talent, in an earlier answer I said we will revive the inter-school sports festivals from the district level to the regional level and also national level, so that we will use that platform to identify our talent. We will use it, we will also give opportunity to the media houses to put in a bid to showcase these sports so that it will stimulate interest of Ghanaians about this inter-school festival, just like the Brilliant Minds and Science Quiz model. So, the Chairman, this will be a big platform for us as a nation to identify our talent, not only for the leagues, but also for our national teams. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
This is a bit controversial, but let me go to that area, because if I don't go to that area, many people will not be happy. There's this very controversial issue of national team bonuses. My very good friend sitting ahead of me here will testify to it. Obi Amwa there will also do, and I also will do. What is the view about this whole structure of national team bonuses, the philosophy of national team bonuses? Is it necessary? Is it sustainable? What should we do so we can have a very motivating national team bonuses for sportsmen, all sportsmen, not only footballers?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the issue of bonuses is something that is worrying, like the Honourable Member just rightly said. Given the opportunity by this August House, I will engage the stakeholders, GFA, the National Sports Authority, Parliament, and even Ministry of Finance, to get, and even Attorney General Department, to get a comprehensive bonuses structure that will leave time, you understand? So that once we have it, it's not a year that when we have tournaments that will then be coming to discuss bonuses. It will be known to all sportsmen and women in this country, so that they will not put ahead bonuses ahead of represent our country, like we have seen in the past. Thank you.
My last one has to do with human capacity. Mr. Chairman, you agree with me that when some of us were very young. Our interest in sports was actually whipped up by few committed teachers who are called PE masters. Today, this very important human resource base is missing or is vanished. And as such, nurturing of talents at the basic level is off. What are you going to do to make sure we get these wonderful trainers, physical instructors, physical educationists, and the rest back into the system so that interest of sports in our younger generation will be hooked up right from the infancy? The second one has to do with, you talk about youth development. I'm talking about human resource development. Should our youth development centers be an extension of our technical and vocational schools, or be places where the moral values of this country will be imparted into the youth for development?
Because he asked two in one question, I've missed the first question. If you can retake your question.
The first one has to do with the physical education and sports side.
Thank you.
And then the second one has to do with moral value development of the youth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know of the object of the establishment of the Universe Sports College was to train technical men and women for our sports activities. And that is why government have taken the steps to revive the Universe Sports College. And also, given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to ensure that every school have a PE teacher. Because, like he said, I had opportunity when I was in secondary school. I had opportunity when I was in even teacher training school in Bagaba teacher training camp, and my PE teacher was very, very active. He's called Mr. Tia, and I know he'll be proud of me sitting here today. And so I know the importance of a PE teacher helping to develop talent at a basic level. If the vision of myself and government going forward is to make sure that we revive the inter-school festivals, and there's no PE teachers, people who would train these talents, then it's a big problem. And that is why going forward, like I said in the earlier answer, after the African Games, we are going to use those facilities to establish the University for Sports Development. And this will be a platform where we can train more technical people, coaches, referees, so that they will meet international standard and also be able to harness talent for our national team and also the teams that we have in our league. Thank you so much. The second part of morals, where the youth resource centers are built. Yes, Mr. Chairman, given the opportunity, I will engage. Most of these youth resource centers are not being managed by the ministry, as you know. Some of them by Corvette, others by Ministry of Education, and also some under the Ministry of National Youth Authority. So together, we'll do stakeholders collaboration to see how we'll instill morals and discipline among the youth of this country.
Yeah, thank you very much. Having been there before, it would be unfair to be asking you questions that much, but my questions really are pointers, so just take note. Now, on the issue of national teams, you know very well that the national teams are really not a property of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The national teams by GFA and FIFA regulations are, yes, and you also have the Sports Authority. So really, the ministry is not directly responsible for these teams. But the key problem with sports is financing. Sports is financing. The finance ministry will not give you money. If they give you very grudgingly. Are you thinking about the option of getting the GFA and National Sports Authority to consider auctioning the support for these teams to given companies, big companies, so that they fund the development of these teams, and then they will bypass the finance minister because that expense will be tax deductible. That company can deduct that as an expenditure, either corporate social responsibility or as part of branding expenditure, because if the teams do well at the international level, then they become good brands that the company can use to brand itself. So in terms of innovative financing, will you be willing to have this discussion with the GFA and the National Sports Authority?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'll consider it is a very innovative idea that my senior brother has mentioned, because, like I said in the earlier answer, financing is one of the biggest challenges, like he has said, in sports. So if there are suggestions like that, I'll take it and look into it, given the opportunity. And I'll engage the Ministry of, because companies are not sponsoring because there are no incentives. So if I'll engage the Ministry of Finance to see how we can get incentive for companies sponsoring our national teams, so that we can get more companies to do so and improve on the talent, and also we can get more trophy. Like, I know, for example, when President Kufuor was in government, he got Anglo Gold to support the national team, and the whole agenda was to make sure that we qualify for the World Cup. And because it started earlier, and they were giving support and they were training, building capacity, we were able to go through and qualify for the World Cup. And when His Excellency, may his soul rest in peace, Professor Atames also came, he was able to get GMPC to support our national teams. And because of the preparation that we put into, again, we're able to qualify for the 2010 World Cup. So, if we're able to get sponsorship for our national team, I believe strongly that we'll do well, and we can even improve our ranking in FIFA. Thank you so much.
Chairman, if I can just do a little follow-up. I note that you reference to his memory, late Professor Mills. As I understand those days working with him, his concept of financing sports, given his rich background in sports, was for corporate social responsibility. You've mentioned just GMPC. Professor Mills' thinking at the time was that let's have a corporate social responsibility bill which allows corporate entities to make a contribution to that fund you mentioned to support sports. You want to assure us that you take up this initiative and give meaning to it. Thank you, Chair. And then, just ending, I disagree with you and Neil Ante on bonuses. And I was just sharing with Chairman, I have a football club, Steadfast United. Yesterday, my team played with Kintampo United 4-1. As soon as the results came, my first text message was bonuses. Bonuses. So don't dismiss it. If you don't give it to them, don't expect better performance from them at the next opportunity. But can you respond to the GMPC, Corporate Social Responsibility Sports Fund? What will you do as Minister? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Yes, I will go with that direction. Corporate social responsibility. Companies, multinational, using their corporate social responsibilities to support sports development in Ghana. So, but like the honorable member for Boku Central also mentioned, these companies will also be able to do so when there is incentives for them. So that's why I said, given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Finance and even make a case in Cabinet, so that Cabinet can take a decision and get incentive packages for corporate Ghana that is willing to support our national teams. And on the issue of bonus, the response wasn't, we are not going to pay bonuses, but it was to have a structure in place, a proper structure that it is known to everyone, so that when there is known to everyone, it's not when you are playing, there's a tournament, then we are now going to be discussing bonuses. It doesn't give the team focus. But once they know that this is what they are entitled to, and also they are paid, they will be committed and focused and representing us in tournaments that we assign them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just some clarity, Mr. Chairman. The proposal that I asked about, you don't need any change in the existing law. You don't need anything. All you need is a policy change by the GFA to agree to auction out the teams, various national teams, and even the different sports, every single one of them, so that the highest bidder will be any company that puts in a bid and says, I will be able to hire a coach of this standard for them, I will maintain this stadium over here for them, I will sponsor them to participate in XY number of this. And in exchange, like you said, the incentive is that if they do well, then the brand becomes yours to use for advertising. And that's an expense that can be deducted by the company as part of its expenses before the imposition, the determination of its taxable income. I mean, that's my view of the matter, but it's up to GFA and then Sports Authority with your direction. Now, my second question really has to do with popular sports and the relationship between popular sports, land use and spatial planning, and generally the planning of the city, and the responsibility of local government authorities to provide space for sports activity. So to what extent will you be focusing on imposing on local government authorities the responsibility to ensure planning in such a way that space is made available for sporting activities, and that they develop those spaces and they maintain those spaces?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, if we have to go back to the basics to develop our youth in sports, then they should have facilities at the basic level in the communities or the district level, so that they will be able to use them to develop their talent. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Local Government and also Ministry of Education, because sometimes even in the schools, they can have those facilities there.
Let me just help you. This House passed a law, Land Use and Spatial Planning Law. And during the debate, if you recall, we had an issue with how public spaces reserved for sporting and recreational activity are being encroached upon. So we structured the law in such a way that only this House will approve, rezoning of public spaces by even the local government authorities. And the whole objective was to preserve those public spaces so that it can be developed for sports and etc. So that's where one of the things you should be paying attention to, and paying attention to the planning, and then getting assemblies to fund the infrastructure at that level.
Very well noted, Mr. Chairman. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Local Government and look at the law to ensure that places given for sports facilities are not encroached on. Thank you.
Yes.
My team was suspended.
I'm giving it to Hassan already. I thought we have had enough.
Now, just clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Ussif, I congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I have a message for you. from my mother. She insists I should thank you for the kind gesture that you extended to her some time ago. He picked her from the airport. Driver delayed. He didn't know her. He picked her and took her all the way home. So she insists that I should thank you for her publicly.
Thank you so much
for that kind gesture. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I've done my duty to my mother. Mr. Chairman, Honorable nominee, are you aware if government gives any financial support to the Ghana Premier League, both male and female? And if yes, what's the state of payment?
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware. Government, as part of measures to support companies and industries, also considered the sports industry. And our premier, currently the teams in the Premier League has been given 50,000 Ghana cedis each to support them, because currently when they are playing, you know, the capacity, because of the COVID, the current situation, they are not getting spectators to come in. So that was government support to them. But also, most importantly, is the YEA agreement that National Sports Authority and the YEA did to support, and more than 1,000 sportsmen and women are benefiting from this initiative. And they get allowances or stipends, 500 Ghana cedis every month. And this was an MOU between the National Sports Authority just to develop our sportsmen and women in these difficult times.
Very well. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee. You spoke earlier about the state of our stadia and sports facilities and how realistic rates are not being paid, and maybe how the NSA is not also living up to expectation. In that regard, I want to, if you haven't been briefed, draw your attention to what possibly could also be the reason why the NSA is unable to meet some of this very necessary expenditure to maintain our stadia. It has to do with wastage. I have with me here a letter dated 22nd November 2018 that was to go through the tender processes to procure 2 Toyota Hilux 4-wheel drive double cabin pickups. That was done in 2018, but by 2020, under the watch of the NSA boss, the vehicle had either been reported stolen under very bizarre circumstances. And the word around the NSA is that that vehicle may not have been stolen after all, but there is no investigation that has been conducted into this. Again, there are reports of, as we all know, per the procurement requirement, how heads of institutions should not split contracts so that they can meet thresholds to award those contracts. Examples, and I can give you those documents where such contracts, like for dustbin purchases, are split in that manner. What are you going to do about one, this pickup, and also these procurement breaches that result in wastage at the NSA once you are approved?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is news to me, and given the opportunity by this August House, I will do a follow-up on it to ensure that the necessary investigation is done to ensure that we get the vehicle back. Because I don't know the status now. I don't know whether it was reported to the police, whether it was insured for insurance to pay. So because the standard should have insured. If it is stolen, then you just have to report it. And if it's comprehensive, then you'll be able to get the vehicle back. So I will look into it, given the opportunity. On the issue of the procurement, the PPA, that is Public Procurement Authority, they normally do periodic training for institutions. And I remember when I was at National Service, we had opportunity every year inviting them to come and give us a periodic event training so that we'll be updated by. And they also do audits per the law as well. So given the opportunity, the agencies under me, I will ensure that they comply fully with the Procurement Act. They will comply fully with the Procurement Act. And that's the assurance that I will give to this committee, August House. Thank you.
All right. That's why, even though I am happy for you for this nomination, I wish this was an opportunity with the previous minister, the minister who was there. That is where perhaps some of these issues would have been well interrogated. But, Honorable Nominee, one thing that I know you are going to have to deal with also at the ministry has to do with visa scandals. Visa scandals. We know, for example, of the Australian visa scandal. An investigation was said to have been conducted into it. As we speak, we do not know what the outcome of that investigation is. There is another stinking visa racketeering deal brewing in relation to the Para-Olympic Games, where we are told about 100 plus people, names of people were sent to the UK High Commission, and it is turning out that it is a list full of friends and relatives who are not really disabled and should not be part of this list. We also recall the PREFOS deal at National Youth Authority. At the time you were a member of the board, it involved about 500 youth that were supposed to be taking part in street light repairs that was going to cost about 4.5 million Ghana cedis. That report too were promise of an investigation into it. The executive officers, the officers who were in charge at the time were all asked to proceed on leave. So, at least on this too, Australian visa and PREFOS, can you give us your word that you will see to it that these reports are made public, if for nothing at all, to guide your work at the ministry and for people to also be informed about what might have happened at these two places?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the issue of visa scandal is very worrying, and it is no good image for our country, especially what's happened in Australia. So, given the opportunity, I know the GFA, the GOC, that's the Ghana Olympic Committee, is normally in charge, and it has to do with accreditation. I know the processes, per the briefing I got, the processes leading to the Australia scandal is that they normally have a list called a long list and also a short list. The long list normally will be prepared first for the host federation or the organizing country, for the organizers to be able to give accreditation for athletes to be able to participate in the tournament. In the Australian case, instead of waiting for the short list or the final list to be submitted, they issued accreditation to most of these, all the names on the long list. So given the opportunity, I will engage the GOC and the National Sports Authority and ensure that, and even the host nation embassy in Ghana, so that we'll be able to ensure that only vetted athletes or sportsmen and women are issued with visas so that we don't find ourselves damaging our image in this direction. On the issue of the National Youth Authority, the street light training, which resulted in getting the management moved. Yes, I was a member of the board. The law, Mr. Chairman, the matter was between the National Youth Authority and local government ministry, because it was a collaboration to ensure that every constituency in Ghana or every district in Ghana, we have technicians trained to fix street lights. The matter came to the board, and the board, because per their structure, they will normally bring their program of activities to the board for the board to approve. But as the procurement process, the board is not involved. So I know investigation is still ongoing, so I don't want to give much information. But given the opportunity, I will follow it up to ensure that it doesn't occur again.
So will you be willing to make public the investigation report on the Australian visa scandal, for example?
I will follow through to see the agencies doing this investigation. If they are concluded, maybe there is the current, I don't know the status of the investigation. So if yes, the investigation is concluded, yes, it's a public interest matter, and the report should be made public. That's what I think.
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Nominee, I'm sure you are well aware of Tamale's contribution to football. The stars that have been produced from Tamale, either for the national team, the Black Stars, or the Starlets and the Satellites. Do you think the area deserves an AstroTurf, and will you consider giving one to somewhere around Camberley or somewhere around Wardgate?
Camberley, is that your choice?
It's a town in Tamale, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it's in my constituency.
Well, I'm also interested in Camberley. That's why
I'm just asking if you think that those areas will deserve one, or the Banyamli area, any of those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, I know the contribution of the people of Tamale to football, and like I said, we want to go back to the basics where every community will be having inter-school festivals and also community festivals, sports festivals. And if we don't have facilities, how do we do these festivals? So once resources are available, if I have the opportunity, every district and every constituency should get an AstroTurf or a sporting facility. So, depending upon the resources availability, Tamale, I can assure you that Tamale area will be given one.
Yes, Honorable.
Very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, want to remind the Honorable Nominee that he is going to the Ministry for Youth and Sports, not the Ministry for Football, which has really dominated the sector. And I would plead that you focus attention on youth development in particular. One provision in the NDC manifesto I was fascinated about was that because of this tendency to focus on football, we proposed to delineate and have a separate ministry for youth. But the current president is continuing with this tradition of keeping the ministry combined as youth and sports. But please don't forget that it is youth and sports, and not only sports, and for that matter, football in particular. So in that spirit, my first question relates to a report which shocked the nation. It was released only a few days ago, on the 19th of February. A report by the Consultative Committee to Combat Drug Menace in Schools, commissioned by His Excellency the President. A 21-page report was led by Mr. Bright Appiah, the Executive Director of Child Rights International. And I note that going through the report and the membership, you had Reverend Frank Latte from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, who was a member of the consultative committee that conducted this research. The findings are really troubling. You have as many as 36.4% of students in junior and senior high schools. That's very young level, engage in substance abuse. The boys, the figure is at 54.1%, more than half of boys in our public basic schools. A very, very heart-wrenching report. I also have another study conducted by Global Initiative under the title Domestic Drug Consumption in Ghana, an Underreported Phenomenon, by Lucia Beck. And I'll share this report with you, a 72-page report. And the findings are similar to what this consultative committee found. So the issue of substance abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse is a major, major issue amongst the youth now. I have seen FDA issue statements warning the public. The youth are chasing substances like, they say, ecstasy pill, happy pill, love pill, tramadol. Nanaba Namwa did a brilliant job on that. Codeine, Berlin, all kinds of weird substances. Has this report come to your attention? And what are you going to do to help us fight this public health crisis, this drug menace, which is really destroying our youth and the future of this country?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the report it hasn't come to my attention, but I know I've heard it in the public that the use of these drugs is damaging the youth of this country. And even at National Youth Authority, I remember as part of the program was to launch a campaign against and also to educate the youth of this country, the dangers of using these drugs. So given the opportunity, I will ensure that we get the National Youth Authority to go ahead and do more of such campaigns. And also, let me use this platform to also as parents. Parents also have a serious responsibility in this direction, or how we bring up our children. And also, as you know, coming from the National Service, it's a youth agency. And I'm not going to the ministry to just focus on football or sports, leaving the youth development, because there is deficiency, skill deficiency in this country. In the earlier answer, I said, I've done skill gap analysis of the youth of this country, and it is very revealing to see how even the construction sector, you agree with me that we get foreigners to come and do some work that our youth should be doing. So the good news is that there is a project that Convert is just about rolling out. The Job and Skill Project, the Ghana Job and Skill Project. And the Ghana Job and Skill Project is to improve on the skill development of the youth of this country. And I know if this project becomes success, it will also help taking this youth from using, because some of these youth have nothing doing. If you are well engaged, you are focused, because it's an opportunity to also train them, it's a platform to train them about the dangers of using such drugs. And also, Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, should also launch a campaign on the usage, because most of these children spend more time in schools. You understand? They spend more time in school. So as part of our effort to get the youth not to be using this drug, I think if we can get, even in our curriculum, the basic school, right away from the primary school, for our children to know the dangers of using such drugs, it will be helpful. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Education. Luckily for me, it's just a stone throw between my ministry. I can just walk there and see how best we can collaborate together to improve on or reduce the usage. Thank you.
So as a way of following up on that, what should we expect to be your legacy? God willing, you are confirmed, you are Minister for Youth and Sports. What will be your legacy for the youth of our country? What do you want the youth to remember you for?
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I want to be remembered as a minister who has developed the skill, because we talk about unemployment because our people are not employed because they don't have the needed skills. You will be surprised even at national service who are graduates. When we introduce our digitalization agenda to make sure that our processes in dealing with national service becomes paperless, people can just use their phone to sit in any community, be able to apply, get their certificate, request for their certificate. National service personnel will go to internet cafe to ask the cafe owner to do the application for them. So those skills, neutral digital skills and other things are things that we have to develop. So I want to be remembered as a minister who have built the capacity, human capital development. I want to be remembered for that. Aside that, we are also hosting the African Games in 2023. That's a major event for us as a country. So I want to be remembered as a minister who has hosted the best African Games in Africa. And if that happens, thank you.
I see you want to wear the big shoes of the Honorable Obiamwa. We remember him for CAN 2008. So we can only wish you well. My second question is from your handing over notes. I am deeply worried that you are taking over a heavily indebted ministry. If you go to pages 49 and 50 of your handing over notes, if you have it, you can make reference to it. Over 20 million Ghana cedis is owed. All manner of hotels from M Plaza to Kempinski. You owe bonuses for the national football teams. There are judgment debts in the African origin, travel and tours and others. Have you been briefed about the heavily indebted state of your ministry? And what's the strategy? How are you going to get the ministry out of this heavy debt burden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware, but I know per the briefing, per the preparation, when I was preparing to appear before this committee, the issue of debt, I don't know the quantum. I've not cross-checked to see that it's 20 million.
The handing over notes is 20 million, pages 49 and 50. So you can make reference. It's over 20 million cedis.
So I'll check. I'll check to it. I'll check to it. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, when I get there, I will engage the officials at the ministry to see how we can resolve those issues.
Honorable Member, who is responsible for providing money to run the ministry? Who is responsible for providing money to run the ministry?
It's the Finance Minister.
So it's the national debt within your ministry, is that right?
All right. Thank you.
Chairman, so still there, give us an assurance that you get the Minister of Finance to retire the debt, because those hotels, Kempinski, they are businesses.
Yeah.
So if you owe them, it affects not just their profitability, they may even declare workers redundant when they don't have money to pay. So the Honorable Ablakwa, in response to his question, give us an assurance. As for it, this is the copy. I just looked at it. I've confirmed the numbers. You don't want to be mentioning corporate names. It doesn't also help some of them, their reputation. It even includes outstanding bonuses for the national football teams. So give us an assurance that you follow up with the Ministry of Finance to retire this debt and work in a manner that you don't accumulate further debt for the ministry if you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if given the opportunity, I'll take proactive steps to engage the Finance Minister, especially when it is in the handover notes. It becomes very easier for me to make my case. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, finally, I will touch on a reputational issue which borders on potential abuse of office. I have a TV3 news video that, Mr. Chairman, I'll seek your kind indulgence to have it played. And if the nominee can kindly pay attention to the screen.
The sound is here.
Has accused the ruling New Patriotic Party of busing people outside the Yagakubori constituency in the Mamprogu district to register. The NDC further accused the National Service Board of abuse of office by allocating National Service buses to convey the non-residents to the area to register.
The progression of the voter registration exercise nationwide has been fraught with complaints, accusations, and counter-accusations from both sides of the political divide of people being bussed to the various centers. As the news team went around monitoring the registration, these 3 national service buses were spotted along the Jadema-Kunkwa Road, stuck in a muddy portion of the road for hours. The NDC team allegedly chanced on the incident as their vehicle got stuck in this mud and this ensued. These allegations have been heightened, especially in parts of the Northeast region, where the NDC claims the governing party, the MPP, is abusing its office to their detriment. They allege the National Service Board is also abusing its office by allocating official vehicles to convey people to registration centers under circumstances that will not convince them not to vote independently.
Madam Committee,
We find it very difficult to use this road anytime it rains. We were happy when Honorable Mustapha organized a bus to take us to go and register.
So
the roads have always been bad, and it was good he put us in this bus for us to go and register.
Moments into Yagaba Township, we spotted 2 other national service buses believed to have brought people to the area to register. Residents in the constituency have expressed worry on how state vehicles are allowed to transport people to register. We reached out to the national service boss, Mustapha Ussif.
Yes, you may ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So that's a TV3 news report during the registration. You are accused as national service boss, as we saw. The passengers all mentioned your name, that you organized them. You see national service buses, using national service buses for partisan activity. How do you respond to that abuse of office?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the national service buses were procured during Vincent Kwamvenu's regime. And it was for the purposes of getting our national service personnel, because we are doing our farm activities, to engage, to be able to get them to a farm so that they will be able to learn practically the practices that are done on the farm. But when the national service expose came and most of the district officers were implicated and a new executive director was appointed, the national service, the buses were not being used. So when I assumed office, maintenance charges coming to me as executive director. So I made a proposal to the board, and the board gave approval that we should commercialize the buses so that instead of we using the bigger IGF to be paying for the maintenance, we'll be able to raise money. Because the buses are in the region, they are in the 10 regions. He bought 10 of them for the 10 region. So I'm not aware, I wasn't personally involved in busing the people, but an association in Accra here met the transport heads at the National Service Secretariat to rent, because they also know they rent the buses, and they rented the buses to transport themselves to go and register. The chairman, when I got to realize it, I immediately asked them to stop, because I don't want to be seen of abusing my office. So I rather even supported them to even get different buses to
Honorable Member, why did you stop it? Why? Whether you hide this or hide that, your name will be associated. This country, if it was hide for a funeral, nobody will complain. For registration, for those who were going, were they showing party cards before they bought the bus? Honorable, I'm asking you, for those who were boarding the bus, were they showing party cards?
Not at all.
So did you find out if there was payment? Was payment made? Do you have the receipts? Do you have evidence for this committee? The association that you said met your transport department without your notice. Do you know if they made payment, if there's evidence to that effect, if there's some receipt we can see?
Yes, normally when they rent these buses, because I said it's not managed at the head office. As you know, National Service, we have regional offices, and we have 10 regional offices. And when they rent them, the payments are made to the regional office. They rented just about 4 of the buses. And when I got to know it, I stopped it.
Mr. Chairman, that will be it. I'm grateful.
Chair, I have a follow-up.
Yes,
yes. Honorable nominee, the accusation per the news report is that you were busing people. From your explanation, you never did so.
correctly? Yes, Mr. Chairman, I said I wasn't involved in the busing of the people.
That's fine.
Yes, I was coming to leadership, but leader said I should give Gisela one. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, I'd like to ask you a question about human capital development, human capital welfare and care. Without sportsmen and women, there will be no sports. Without sportsmen and women, there will be no sports. And they also have a shorter lifespan in the sense that of their effective sporting life. By 40, somebody cannot necessarily be such an ace footballer and so on and so forth. What plans will you have for that category of people generally, between their welfare, scholarships, investments? How would they be cared for? Because sometimes after they've ended their effective sporting life, they have issues of care and welfare and so on and so forth, and they are a bit on the low side. What will you do? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, one given opportunity, we'll get a pension scheme for our national team members, so that once they retire from their career as sportsmen and women, they will have something to live on. So it's something that I will engage the Federation, so that we'll be able to establish a pension scheme for them, so that whatever bonuses that we are giving them, something is deducted into the pension scheme, so that life after their career, they will be able to have something to live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, honorable nominee, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you so much.
I have a short message to read for you. With your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I'll read a message sent from his alma mater, which happens to be in my constituency. So I get sent as a messenger. Now the message says, "Good morning, Hajia, our honorable MP. This is Alhaji Ibrahim, Assistant Headmaster for Salaga Senior High School. Hajia, the old students, current students, and staff of Salaga Senior High School have asked me to put their request before you to be done during your vetting of Minister of Youth and Sports designate, who happens to be an old student of the school. Their request is that they want you to congratulate him on their behalf. That had it not been that we are in COVID-19 era, they would have been here in their numbers to support him. They say congratulations and they look up to him as a role model. Salam alaikum." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We are done.
Yes, Honorable Ajay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that note, may I take honorable nominee from Salaga to the People's Manifesto. I take you to the NDC's People's Manifesto. In the manifesto, the NDC plan to give every district a sports recreational facility. No, this one. Will you also want to have a look at that and help the communities have small recreational facilities?
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Chairman, when given the opportunity, I'll look into it.
Yes, Honorable Mutaga, this question, you should be answering that. I asked you this question in 2009, that you promised us one district, one stadium. Where's my stadium? Yes, you put it there. All right, you may. Yes, a leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you see the way they are harassing me. It's my grandfather who is from Kumbungu, so I'm from Aswasi. The Chairman, the nominee is a younger brother. He lived in London with my direct younger brother. Anytime I go, we meet and they assist me to do a number of things. But this is not family business. This is public business. So we have to do and earn our salary. The Chairman, in an answer to an earlier question, he said he was going to work hard to increase the IGF of the IGF, that's internally generated fund from the ministry to enable him do a number of things. How does he hope to do this?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't say the ministry, I said the National Sports Authority. The National Sports Authority at 934 manages the facilities, the sports facilities of the country. So given the opportunity, we'll find innovative ways of improving on their IGF. So that once those IGFs are improved, they'll be able to maintain those facilities. So that was my response to the question.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, I mean, you are going to be the supervising ministry. So you are going to be the supervising minister who oversight the sports authority that has these facilities. How do you hope to improve the idea? I know you've been briefed. From your brief, you might have started conceiving an idea of how you could assist them to increase their IGF. That's what I want to hear, whether you have an idea how you intend to do that.
Yes, the sports facilities can be used for other activities. For example, the Tamale Sports Stadium is used for other recreational activities like wedding and even funerals, and they pay monies for the utilization. So, given the opportunity, we'll ensure. But when I was responding to the question, it was with regards to the teams paying realistic fees for the usage, because the Premier League teams or the first division and second division, they use those facilities. And there is a problem about payment of what is due the National Sports Authority. So I said I will engage all the stakeholders as one of the avenues so that whatever they are paying now, at least we can see how we can adjust it so that they'll be able to get revenues to maintain those facilities. Because at the end of the day, when you have those facilities there and they are not being maintained and they deteriorate, those teams will not get the facility to use again.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so are you going to be considering percentage or a kind of sharing formula from the revenue that they generate away from maybe the current flat fee, as a way of, if you have a very good match, then that means you may get some chunk of the money, or you are just thinking that you should just increase the fee that they pay for playing matches there?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to give emphatic position because I'm a believer of engagement. So I want to engage the stakeholders and see what they are able to pay. Because currently I don't know what their capacity, especially in this current condition where we don't have spectators even going into our sports stadium to watch sports activities. But once things normalize and they are able to get people to go to those facilities, what would be required, the engagement, what I'll put forward is to see how best we can have some percentage of whatever they get from the gate fees.
Mr. Chairman, when he was talking about the maintenance, okay, even before that, you know, they have a lot of shops and stores, and in some instances, I think the Tamale, in the Tamale Sports and the Cape Coast, there are some facilities for even hotel accommodation inbuilt within them. Will you look at the charges, whether they are realistic? Because I know some of the shops in Kumasi Sports Stadium, that's Baba Yara. If you look at the charges, that the amount of money that they pay as either rent, as compared to the locality, if you just step out across the street and ask of a shop how much they are paying, you will see that they are partly contributing to the duration because they are what they are paying cannot just maintain the facility. Will it also be an area that you will look at to see how you can improve the revenues for the National Sports Authority now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, it will be one of the areas that I will look into it to see how much they are paying, so that if there are the gap between the rate at which those who have rented our sports facilities, the shops, the gap between them and the private ones is very wide. We will look into it to see that they pay realistic rates.
Mr. Chairman, he also talked about the maintenance manual where he has worked in London. Yes, I agree, because that's the only way. It becomes like a checklist. That's the only way you can follow through to make sure that every aspect of the facility is properly maintained. But you know that the problem is not just the checklist. Because even if you take that, you are supposed to maintain the tap next month, and you don't have money to do that, obviously it will skip. Will you consider a facility manager as a way of PPP in trying to ensure that these facilities are properly maintained? Because as you may know, GOG is not a reliable source that you can depend on to do any meaningful thing in terms of this maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a believer of getting those facilities being, like I mentioned, in UK, Lister Hospital belongs to the NHS, but G4S was a facility manager, and they were managing. If the inspectorate board comes to see that G4S is not doing the right thing, it goes against them in terms of how much they are going to pay them. So I'm a believer of getting private management. But the reality is that our teams are also worried as whether they will be able to pay if a private person is managing those facilities, because it will come at a cost to the teams. And they are also, most of them are now even developing. So given the opportunity, I would rather engage them and put all the options on the table so that we will see which one is the best option for both us and the stakeholders, especially the teams.
Yes, sir, I just want to find out in his briefing whether Bolaga Sports Stadium and Azuma Nelson Sports Complex issues were raised with you during your briefing. Bolaga Sports Stadium.
Mr. Chairman, no.
And then what about the Azuma Nelson Sports Complex? At Keneshi?
Mr. Chairman, no, I don't.
With the Azuma Nelson Sports Complex, the president said when he came in 2017 that this complex was going to be rehabilitated to a certain standard so that it can be used 4 years down the line. Nothing much is there. Same with Bolga Sports Stadium. Is it an area that you pay attention to when you get to office so that you see what you can do to improve the facilities there?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, all sports facilities will be paid attention to, and now, particularly now that you have mentioned the two sports facilities, the Bolga one and also the Azuma Nelson, I'll look into it. I'll do a follow-up to it and pay more attention to it to ensure that what the president said is done.
And also, you know, the Ministry of Zongo Development then had dotted a number of ASUTEF across the country that are not completed. There's one in Aswance, precisely Akrim, where you are very familiar with. I mean, for 3 years, it's not been completed. I hope you pay attention to get these ones complete, because that will help sports development at the local level.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I can assure the honourable member that given the opportunity, those facilities all will be completed.
Mr. Chairman, let me take you to one area that, as a country, will find it very difficult to deal with. That's airlifting of supporters to watch our matches. I mean, after the Brazil saga, there was a, what do you call it, there was a commission that worked on and advised that we should henceforth cease to be airlifting supporters. Subsequent to that, I mean, supporters by your predecessor were sent to Egypt, Australia. That has led to all this scandal. What assurance are you giving to this House about this recommendation by the Commission that we should stop airlifting supporters to watch this and allow and facilitate and allow individuals who want to go and watch matches to pay and go and watch, rather than the state carrying this unnecessary burden?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, like the honourable member rightly said, the issue has to do with using the taxpayers' money to carry supporters to support our national team. But you should also understand that everywhere in the world, when national teams are representing their countries, they carry spectators and supporters to go and cheer up the team so that the team can be able to perform and be motivated. So we look at other avenues like sponsorship, where we get corporate Ghana, and in this regard, I will also engage the media to support, to rebrand the sector, so that the corporate Ghana will be willing, because they want to be associated with good news, so that they'll be able to sponsor supporters to go and cheer up our national teams, so that they'll be motivated to deliver and get trophies for us.
Chairman, when he was answering a question earlier about the Australian investigation, you know that the police have still not released the report on the Australian investigation. Is this something that you will consider making it public, or getting the police to release their
he has answered those questions already. He has assured us that he will tell their public investigation.
Mr. Chairman, what he answered was not in relation to the police releasing the report. He said he will see to the report and its content. I thought that what I heard.
I thought they are the same thing. It's the same report.
No, because the report itself has not even been released.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will engage the Minister of Interior to see to it whether the investigation is even conclusive. So if it's conclusive, it's a matter of public interest. We will make sure that we make it public.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me take him where he's just living, National Service, with its associated problems. It was shocking when you donated 10 pickups to Ghana Education Service. Why? I thought Ghana Education Service was richer than your outfit. Why were you donating 10 pickups to Ghana Education Service? Yes, the National Service Secretariat, you donated 10 pickups to the Ghana Education Service. What necessitated that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the idea was to collaborate with the Ghana Education Service to do school farms. So in order to support them to monitor, because they were the implementers of the school farms, so we supported, and we got approval from Minister of Finance, my board, to support them so that they will be able to monitor the school farms, so that they will be able to produce food to support the free SHS policy, because that was the concept, and that's why we supported the Ghana Education Service.
I thought that if they needed support in that area, it was the Minister of Agric, Minister of Food and Agriculture, that was supposed to do that. How is the school fund related to you as National Service Secretary?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. You know that apart from our mandate of deploying national service, I said earlier that we also have programs. The Act 426 give the board the mandate to be able to introduce new programs. And we do AGRIC as one of the model at national service. So we support, if you remember, we even gave more than 5,000 bags maize to support through buffer stock, support the school funds, the free SHS policy. So this was another initiative where we want to make sure that our brothers and sisters in the secondary school also get opportunity to have practical experience at the school, so that in doing so we'll be able to now produce also to complement government effort to do that.
Mr. Chairman, why was it necessary to deduct 15 cedis from National Service Secretariat to finance National Service Week?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the National Service have an association called NASPA, and this association has existed long time, since 1973 that National Service was established, and even when the Act was passed, the association is there to see to their welfare. So normally when they have week celebration, just like the NUCS and the SRC, they levy the National Service person, and they will go to Congress and pass a resolution. So Executive Director, you'll be there and they'll bring the resolution and said they want to do their week celebration. So they want 15 Ghana cedis, 10 Ghana, depending upon what they agree at their Congress. Then for us, ours is to implement, because I'm the patron of sometimes we even advise, but the purpose of the deduction is based on the National Service personnel.
And you supervise the expenditure when you do the deduction, is that what you say? Or when you get deduct, you give it to them?
Once they have their own account, as a patron, I advise them about it. But they have the association, they have district level executives, they have regional level executives, and they have national level executives. So based on whatever we give them, they will go. They have a formula about how they disperse those money, and those formulas will agree normally at Congress, and they'll bring the resolutions. Then once we give it to them, they then do the disbursement to their membership so that they can celebrate it nationwide.
Chairman, Nanabi was your deputy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
He left to contest the National Youth Organizer position.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
After he won, is he still occupying your official bungalow as when he was the deputy, when he was your deputy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. After he won, we wrote officially to him that now that he's not part of the management, he should leave the accommodation for the new person appointed to take over. So that's what I can say.
And did he leave, or is still occupying the bungalow?
As we speak, I have to cross-check, because after my inauguration here, I have not gone back there to check, so I have to check whether. Yeah.
He became the National Youth Organizer some years back.
Yes, he has once we wrote the letter to him, I believe he has left, because the new person was to take over the facility.
Are you sure the new who took over from him?
Kweku Ohini Jan.
Are you sure Mr. Jan is living in an official bungalow?
We have that bungalow to him.
And you are not paying any rent to him?
No, they are not paying any rent.
It's certain that he has occupied, Nanabi has vacated for Mr. Jan to occupy the bungalow?
Yes, once we have allocated to him, I'm very certain that he has.
Are you certain, or you assume that he has occupied the bungalow?
I assume, because we have written to him, we have given him allocation that he should take over. Because I decided, because that particular residence was for the executive director, but I decided that I want to live in my own house. That's why it was given to my deputy. So once he came, he said he should take over. So I assume that he's currently there.
Are you also the present representative there at the National Service Secretariat?
No, Mr. Chairman.
It's only at the ministerial level.
Yes.
So have you since left that office?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you packed your things out?
I've packed my things.
Mr. Chairman, you need to caution Honorable Ussif. It's not for her to be screaming at people. It is not for you to be screaming at people. Yes.
Honorable Chairman, I haven't heard a scream. I haven't heard any scream. Please continue with your question.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to find out from the nominee whether he said that what he wanted was to be the one that has to have organized the first African Games, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You know that the para discipline, in the briefing that you received, is it integrated in the program for the African All Games?
Mr. Chairman, the briefing I got is that when we put in the bid to host the African Games, the para bid wasn't part, but the organizers, the AU, is asking that whether we can integrate it so that it becomes part of the games. But given the opportunity, I will engage the stakeholders and also cabinet, because these decisions, I cannot take those decisions, even as a minister. So once the opportunity is given to me, cabinet will take a decision on that, as whether we are going to host the para games alongside the African Games.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy Leader.
Chair, I have no questions for him, except to congratulations.
Chairman, thank you very much. Let me congratulate the Honorable Mustapha Ussif. And as the Honorable Ablako advised him, to endeavor, if you do become minister, to endeavor not to neglect youth development, particularly inculcating the values of patriotism in young Ghanaian people, and they upholding strongly our values as a country. Now, there is no standard indoor gym in Ghana which can be used for year-round basketball, boxing, or other hand games. Can you make a promise to the youth of Ghana that you'll work on such a facility, an indoor gym for Ghana, if even one, for indoor games? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, luckily for us, we have opportunity of hosting the African Games, and we have an opportunity of building an Olympic village that will have all these facilities. So I can give that assurance that once given the opportunity, yes, we'll build those facilities for the youth of this country.
Chairman, when the nominee was talking about support for clubs, he mentioned that some 50,000 has been given to premier clubs. That will only work up on average monthly salaries for the clubs. Camping costs for 4 matches and even 2 long distance traveling will consume that amount. I'm encouraging you to explore opportunities of corporate social responsibility to finance it. Now, Division 1, the level below Premier, did you give them any support, and how much?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know per the arrangement, the Division 1 was also supposed to receive some support But I don't know how much has been given. But I know that for the premiership, that was the figure I gave. But given the opportunity, I'll look into it. If it's not given, I will follow it through to ensure that the Division 1 teams also get what we promised them.
The National Youth Authority, from the records available to me, probably have offices in 81 districts. Is that the case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Will you expand it to the other districts of Ghana, and how?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, even as we speak, we've started operationalizing all the district offices across the country using NAPCO officials. So even though we have 81, as the Honorable Member said, practically, I have been a member of the board of the National Youth Authority, and I'm aware and know that we've engaged NAPCO, and NAPCO have deployed officials to see to the interests of the youth and engage the youth on behalf of the authority. So given the opportunity, we'll write to finance to get financial clearance to be able to appoint officers, and also engage Ministry of Local Government to get offices for the authority. Because per the law, we need to have youth committees, and also the youth group should be registered. So if you have no offices, then it makes it very difficult for the youth associations to have opportunity to register. So I will follow it vigorously to ensure that in all the districts across the country we have operational offices.
Chairman, may I find out from the nominee, pursuant to the National Youth Authority Act 939 of 2016, you have any plans of a legislative instrument to operationalize its operation, and when do you intend to put this before Parliament? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I'm aware my predecessors have already started work on the operationalization of the legislation. So once given the opportunity, I will follow it up to ensure that the legislation comes to this House to be approved, so that we'll be able to operationalize the law as we have passed.
Chairman, thank you. May I request from the nominee, youth empowerment and development is important because of employability, and for us to equip them with the needed skills for their contribution to our national development effort. The youth training centers, youth leadership training centers in Afenya, Takrasi, Asankare, Sandima, Isa, Afransi, Ebua, Nalergu, Nopene, I hope I pronounce it well. Largely, they have problems with feeding grants, how early they get it. And the young students, male and female, struggle. What will you do to improve the feeding of these institutions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the development of our youth is very, very critical. And given the opportunity, especially the challenge the Honourable Member just mentioned, I'll follow it through to ensure that their feeding grants don't delay.
Chairman, for instance, the Afenya Youth Leadership Training School, the catering department and plumbing department, I recall visiting it then. It's still in the same state. What plans do you have for it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I mentioned earlier that the retooling of these youth leadership centers have started by my predecessor. Not all of them were captured. So given the opportunity, I will continue to ensure that the rest are all renovated and also improved the standard and equipped, so that the youth of this country will have opportunity to develop their skills.
Chairman, this home match for the nominee. I was in Nalergu this weekend on Sunday, briefly. Construction of 300 sitting capacity multipurpose hall. What's the status of it? You are from that area. Has it been completed? Will you get it completed to serve the youth in that area?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the youth resource centers that currently is ongoing are in various stages of completion. And given the opportunity, I will I'll follow through to ensure that all these facilities are completed so that the youth of this country will have to utilize those facilities.
The Nzima Mamle Youth Leadership and Skills Training Institute, what plans do you have for them?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, like I responded in my earlier answer, I will ensure that I will follow it through to ensure that the issues that they have is resolved.
Chairman, may I find out from the Minister for Youth and Sports nominee, the water systems in Uhuyedin and Takrasi Youth Leadership Training Centers is in very bad state. You can imagine if you wake up, you don't know how to get a good bath. You probably will not know how to get good drinking water. Starting the day will just be as miserable as is not promising. What will you do about that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and also thank you, Honourable Member, for drawing my attention. And where I'm coming from, National Service, I know we have a rig. So if given the opportunity, I'll liaise with National Service to see immediately what we can do for them, getting them a borehole, a mechanized borehole, and also if we are the current status too, we can make sure that we improve on it. But that's what I will do as a point given the opportunity.
Now, may I find out from the nominee whether he wants to initiate some work to get dedicated sports stadium for WA in the Upper West region and Bolga in the Upper East region to facilitate training. I have maintained that training is the only activity for which there is no medicinal substitute. You don't need to take a vitamin to get what training gives you. Can you make a pledge to this committee for WA and Bolga and I'll add who in the Volta region? What plans do you have?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm aware who, for instance, we've started a youth resource center there, and it comes with a standard football pitch, 8-lane track, an ICT lab, and also a business center. So most of the regions work have already started. And while as well, I'm aware there is also a youth resource center currently ongoing. In Upper East, it's not in Boga, but it's in Navrongo. So there's also a youth resource center which comes with a FIFA standard pitch and also 8-lane track, an ICT lab, a business center, a volleyball and basketball court. So given the opportunity, I'll see to its completion so that for those regions to have those facilities.
Chairman, I see that natural grass does not do well for purpose of continuous training, and because of the seasonal nature of our country, I've seen a number of AstroTurf fields. What plans do you have to expand it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as we speak, the Minister of Zongo Development has constructed almost 15 AstroTurfs. 5 of them have been completed, and given the opportunity, GMPC Foundation is also doing some. Given the opportunity, I will liaise with other agencies and also corporate Ghana to see to it that if we have to revive the inter-school and inter-community sports festivals, then we will need facilities to be able to do so. So,
Chairman, I note that the AstroTurf fields are largely being built in a discriminatory manner. I've seen them in more MPP political constituencies than NDC constituencies. There's none in Bekwai, so fair to it, a stronghold of the MPP. But I cannot count any MP from this side who is benefiting from an AstroTurf You are always in Tamale. I know your in-laws' house. Just by it, Kulukulu School, popular Kulukulu School, just by your in-laws' house. The youth there gather every day in the last decade or more. Young Dawara in Lamashegu, just by the Chief Palace. The youth are there. And I'm saying that I'm not happy about the discriminatory implementation of those tests. Can you assure us that you will be fair to all members of parliament and to all constituencies, because exercise is necessary for every person in the respected 275 constituencies? Will you stop the discriminatory allocation of it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I can assure this August House that given the opportunity, we will not be doing discriminatory. And like I said in my earlier answer, if resources are available, we want to get AstroTurf for every constituency, so that the exercise, the vision of getting inter-school festivals and inter-community festivals will be realized. Because if there are no facilities, it will be difficult for them to do so. So
you are encouraged, if you do become minister, to end the discrimination. As you drive to Wale Wale, I've seen a new development on my right. The people of Diare and Savulugu, where you drive past every day, they have problems with water. That is not your mandate. Savulugu, I'm not seeing any development of this activity. Gushegu, I'm not seeing it, unless you want to assure me that that is being done. So kindly consider that. But come back to your CV. Leadership positions held. Ghana's delegation to MIT program as Massachusetts. You put in 2017 to 2019. You want to suggest that for 2 years you were busy there while still functioning in public service? Page 4 of your CV. Page 4 of your CV.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The program was 2 years program, customized for Ghana, and I participated. And it was 5 workshops in between the 2 years. So you go just for 5 days and come back and go back. It was 5 workshops in between, and also online. We get resources online as well.
Chairman, I'm just concluding. I'm holding here some termination letters signed by the minister you are succeeding, Honorable Isaac Kwame Esiama. This one was addressed to Mr. Bright Achampong, Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer, National Youth Authority, Mr. Richard Eba Obing, Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer, National Youth Authority, and then Mr. Emmanuel Asigri. There was some investigation. You want to share the details with us in the public interest if you do get to the ministry on the investigations to what led to their dismissals? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, if I get the report of the investigation, I will share.
Chairman, I should note that the nominee, Honorable Mustapha, comes to me as very affable and self-respecting person as I have encountered him as we travel in and out. I'm still investigating the circumstances, how my friend Honorable Tanko lost to him. And all of us will have to look at it. There was some shooting in the constituency, but like I said, I don't have my full facts to interrogate him on it. But I want to wish him well. Chairman, thank you.
We have some Northeast MPs. They are here in their numbers.
Sorry? He was here. He said you should acknowledge MPs.
Some of
Honorable
colleague MPs.
Honorable Mustapha, I have no question for you. I congratulate you. We thank you for attending upon the committee to answer our questions. You will hear from us, but for now, you are discharged.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.